How do you feel about public proposals? Women who have actually been publicly proposed to, how do you feel the lack of privacy impacted the experience and your response, if at all?
Very much not my thing. I'm an introvert and hate being the center of attention among people I don't know well, let alone a crowd of literal strangers. Being put on the spot like that sounds like a nightmare.
I'm not a fan. I was proposed to downtown, in the middle of our city, and there was a ton of people around watching. After my partner at the time proposed, he turned around and took a massive bow to the crowd. Fast forward and we are not together anymore lol.
They're fine if the person proposing knows that the answer will be a yes and if the one being proposed would be comfortable with it happening in a public. Husband proposed in the restaurant bar where we first met. I found it sweet that he specifically chose that place. It being public didn't bother me.
I think it's super sweet as long as the proposer knows their partner loves public proposals and would love to have it happening to them, and both have discussed wanting to get married soon. People who put their so on the spot is doing something manipulative, whether they intend to or would personally not want to be proposed to in public.
My BF at the time proposed at my B-day party in front of felt that I had no option but to say yes even though he was manipulative and not a nice person. We broke up shortly after but it was not pleasant when everyone thought we were happily getting married. Privately in a public place like at dinner or something could be very thoughtful but not public as in everyone is watching you.
Misa proposed in public but not by a crowd. We were the Botanical Gardens, where we had our first date. On a very dreary December day, we wandered outside to escape some of the crowds and he popped the question then. It was the best time and spot since he hid a bunch of rose petals in his pocket so he could toss them up when I said yes. After the hugs and kisses, a little train ride was going by for bringing kids to and from Santa and a woman shouted a congratulations. If there had been people around, I would have been very shy and self-conscious during even though my answer wouldn't have changed. It was nice to have that more private moment as he popped the to that woman who congratulated us. Thank you Red Heart.
I'd honestly be wondering if this was a man I want to marry. If he knew so little about me that he'd make a public production out of an intimate no. Just no.
Hate it. My husband did this. He planned for my whole family to come down to his mom's house and she asked me to come over one day to help fix her tile and I said sure. I walk in and my mom, dad, sister, brother, nibblings, his mom, dad, sister, everyone staring at me and my DH on his knee and all he said was, "Will you marry me?" And I said yes BC I do love him and then he asked why I didn't cry. Lol BC everyone is looking and you didn't say anything sweet? He also didn't make sure I was showered and dressed like I thought I was doing housework. Dude lol I did have a talk with him that while it was very sweet to invite everyone I do not like that. Marriage is for the couple not everyone else.
I die of embarrassment, personally. Technically my husband did propose in a public place, a rooftop bar we like, but knew the whole, get down on one knee in public, thing is neither of our styles, so he just kind of discreetly slid the ring across the table and asked if I'd marry him. That was nice. It still felt private and personal.
My ex proposed to me after I got off a plane. In the airport. Then got mad I didn't kiss him. It was so embarrassing.
I utterly hate the idea. If anyone had ever proposed to me in public, it would have been an automatic no regardless of whether I wanted to marry him or not.
I think it's important to know the type of person that you are proposing to and definitely have a discussion about dream proposal. My ex proposed to me at Disneyland during the fireworks. I absolutely loved it and felt like an absolute princess. 10 out of 10 would do it again.
I don't like them. I think it's cringy and I feel bad for anyone that it happens to, unless they really wanted it that just don't understand why everything has to be videoed and made a public event. Some things are okay to keep private.
Never been proposed yet. But my first reaction reading your question was like no nope nope nope. An intimate proposal where it is just us is more my thing.
It feels like coercion, so, no.
Super cringe. If someone proposed to me publicly, I would decline because they obviously do not know me.
Same, I'd argue my partner wouldn't know me well at all if they tried something public.
The claustrophobia is too much for me. And the pressure to say yes to appease the crowd.
I'm an extrovert and I still wouldn't want this. Ever since the movie Bride Wars, I found being proposed to just between the over some Chinese food and watching our favorite show together quite romantic.
Yuck, what a lol. Did he tip his fedora too?
I am guessing you said yes to the proposal? How long after did it not work? Think knowing the partner and how private a moment they may want is part of knowing each other.
My husband's proposal was much the same. The restaurant was a special place for us. He did his best to get us seated in the back, away from the majority of other customers, but there were still a few groups near us. The actual question was buried under the voices of nosy Long Islanders asking each other, "Is he proposing?" Highlight of the night, appreciated that my now husband wanted to propose in a place that was special to us, and he knew that I'd be comfortable there, even with a few other folks around. I think it's just important that you know your partner well enough to understand what they'd be comfortable with. And if you're not 100% sure that the answer will be a yes, probably best to wait until you do. Never mind the crowds.
Oof, that's a great point. I always cringe at videos where someone proposes in public and it's clearly a huge, unwelcome shock. It is manipulative when both parties don't already know they want to get engaged, and puts so much pressure to say.
I still wonder if our friend would have said yes to her ex-husband if he didn't propose publicly after her graduation. In the total time they were together, I think they were happy for 1 month.
I'm sorry for your experience. This sounds awful. I'm glad you guys didn't go through with it.
Greater than privately in a public place like a dinner or something could be very thoughtful, but not public as in everyone is watching you. This is what my husband did on the top of a mountain with loads of people. We were sat admiring the view off to one side before the hike back down, and he proposed, not on one knee, thank goodness. I think he knew I'd him if he did the full public proposal. It was very low key, but extremely romantic.
My husband did something similar. We were on a mountain garden tour, and at the top of the mountain, he pulled me to the side and proposed. It was our own little private moment. We asked this group of sweet elderly women to take our picture as we had just gotten engaged, and one said, "What? Now?" We missed it, and then they all oohed and ahed. It was exactly how I would have planned it myself, celebrating with a whole bunch of grandmas.
I also had a slightly public proposal. At a restaurant, but in a private room. The maitre d' brought us there after a kitchen tour. I loved the privacy of the proposal, but honestly it was fun that a few other people knew because the staff was so excited for us as we walked out, and we received some congratulations from them.
My husband proposed to me in my city's botanical gardens too. He was looking for a specific spot on a balcony above a Tuscan-inspired room of a climatron. I still had the picture I took of him there 3 years prior, and I asked him to take a picture there with me, and he proposed right after, so we have some really beautiful before and after pictures where you can see the fear melting away from his eyes. Rolling on the floor laughing.
My husband and I love escape rooms, so he booked us a private one and popped the question toward the end. The staff there knew what was up and helped him arrange things. They also recorded it and took pictures for us. It was very sweet that someone was there to cheer us on and congratulate us, but I wouldn't have wanted anything more public than that.
Greater than, and I said yes BC, I do love him, and then he asked why I didn't cry. Lol BC, everyone is looking and you didn't say anything sweet? I can relate to receiving a proposal with no sweet sentiments. My ex's proposal was him getting down on one knee and saying, "I don't know what I'm doing, but will you marry me?" I said yes, but I was so disappointed by his lack of preparation. Where was the speech talking about why he fell in love with me, how great our life was together, and what he wanted our future to be? He didn't propose spontaneously either, so I'll never understand why he didn't bother coming up with anything sweet to say. Sure, your husband isn't as much of a dud as mine was, though. Lol.
Nah, just threw my hand in the air like I just won a boxing championship. Lol. I did say yes. We managed to stay together another 11 months, but the whole vibe of the proposal set the tone for that time. He definitely didn't know me as well as what I thought, and I clearly didn't know him well enough either.
A friend of mine was proposed to in a restaurant by someone she had been dating for about 3 months. She was a pretty shy person. The proposal was as public as the wannabe groom could manage. The wait staff were in on it and made an announcement to get everyone to watch. She said yes, but only because she felt she had to. They broke up a few weeks later.
Another thing I hate in addition to public proposals are proposing on some day that is special in another way. At a baby shower, on a birthday, a graduation day, Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve, etc. Worse is at someone else's wedding, bridal party, or wedding anniversary party. My aunt asked my mum, her sister, if it would be a good idea to announce her engagement at her friend's wedding. I think her then fiancé had already proposed at that point, but maybe they had ideas of staging another proposal? My mum told her, of course not. So glad my aunt actually consulted and heeded my mum's advice at that point. Too often through the years she for clarity.